Yeah, the other thing that occurred to me about Zoo TV was that do you ever get from people who view you as a great guitarist that, you know, what are you doing with all this technology and all this non-guitar based ideas, you know? Is there any sense that you're a traitor to the notion of guitar heroism?
Well, I've never felt, to be honest, like I was part of any of that to begin with. I mean, when U2 formed, it was kind of a reaction against all that kind of histrionics, you know, guitar, opera. So, you know, I mean, I suppose in that sense, I feel really lucky to have missed out on all that. You know, I think, well, whilst I do love playing guitar and I really enjoy, you know, the instrument, I think there's so much kind of ridiculous nonsense attached to it. And we've, as a band, and I suppose me as a player, have always tried to duck any of that stuff. It's been kind of from the beginning, it's been a thing for us is to try and really, rather than playing the guitar, you know, I like to play songs, I like to play music, and so I don't want to ever be guilty of gratuitous guitar solos or, you know, going off into one that's not like completely necessary for the piece of music. And you know, with Zoo TV and with Achtung Baby, I think that I was just doing what I normally do, which is try and find sounds that I've never heard before on guitar, and that's a thrill for me. That's where I really get off, is when I take the guitar and find something that I've never heard or never done before. That sense of new territory is really important for me. I think it goes back to that early time when we were, you know, really turned on by bands like Television, who I thought were so unique. I never really wanted to sound like anybody else, because I thought, you know, there are ways to be different, and you know, in some ways you always do. You know, you can never completely avoid touching off other music, but as much as possible, I've always attempted to do something that is completely unique and has never been heard before.
Um, and I just watched the Pop Mart tour in Mexico City 2 nights ago again, and the one thing that occurred to me is the time when you had the spotlight on your own, and whether, you know, I suddenly thought I don't recall that often, that, you know, you actually took the limelight just for a moment, you know, away from the band. You were always such a band together.
Mm-hmm.
Where did that come from?
Where did the sense of not wanting to take the limelight come from, or where did...
Both, actually.
Well, I like bands, you know. I love bands. I love a band dynamic, you know, and to me it's about, you know, the interaction of musicians. So, you know, I guess I'm not that impressed by the sort of gunslinger guitar approach. So for me it was always gonna be, you know, me playing as part of the band unit. You know, I was just not really that interested in jumping into the limelight for some 25-minute solo or whatever it was. I think that's a personality thing as well. You know, I get off on a sense of kind of making the most out of something really minimal, the most effect out of the smallest musical gestures. That's a kind of big payoff for me. Um, and then, you know, you're talking about the Pop Mart tour, and I can't even remember where I might have taken the spotlight in that
And
tour.
you sing as well.
Oh yeah, well, did I sing Sunday Bloody Sunday on that one?
Yeah.
Is that on that?
As an acoustic.
Okay. Well, I think the beginning of that was actually I do remember where that came through. That was a case where Bono had completely lost his voice. We were playing in Sarajevo, and um, we decided like an hour before the show that we should try something different. And I actually had just been playing that song the day before in the house, and I was just thinking to myself, wow, that is a great song. It could take a different approach. So I was kind of playing it to Bono, saying, you know, we could try this, but in a different way, like in a kind of stripped down way, because we haven't played Sunday Bloody Sunday as a kind of full band song really since probably the Unforgettable Fire tour, simply because, you know, you have to get away from songs sometimes. You start to sound like a parody of yourself if you do it too much. But in this case, it sort of felt fresh again to try it in a different way. So I played it to Bono, and he said, "Yeah, that's really good." He said, "I think you should sing it." And I was like, "Well, that's not really what I had in mind, but you know, okay, I'll think about that one." And then, literally, like the week later, we're in Sarajevo, and Bono's voice is gone, and he's saying, "I think you're gonna have to, you know, maybe give me a rest for a minute." So I tried it in Sarajevo, and it worked. You know, it was a moment of a realization, I suppose, that, you know, a great song can work in so many different ways, and, you know, almost in spite of me singing it, I think it really kind of came through. And, you know, we're thinking about putting it back in the set. You know, at this point, it's probably time to have another go at it. But it was, you know, I'm not really somebody who thrives on being, you know, center stage. I'm really somebody who likes to be, you know, making it happen, but kind of a few steps back from the spotlight. And so it was a kind of a step for me to go and sing that, but it worked.
So it wouldn't be naturally your idea to risk a Derek Smalls moment and appear from a lemon?
Spinal Tap. Well, you know, that the whole Pop Mart thing was like somebody had to stare down the tap. You know what I mean? Somebody had to out Spinal Tap, Spinal Tap. We were getting off on just a kind of 70s, you know, funkadelic, you know, vivid show. You know, we wanted something that was kind of not taking itself too seriously, but could be serious if it wanted to be. You know, something that basically was hopefully setting up some sort of a contrast to the painfully serious movement in America at the time, which is the sort of grunge thing, where it's like it was so serious and people were way too kind of intense about everything. And you know, rock and roll has always had a sort of vivid quality, a certain kind of humor and life and irreverence. You know, we were certainly with the Lemon, we were connecting with some of that spirit, and you know, a lot of people really got it and loved it, and some people didn't. And I think that is actually kind of the story of U2. This, we're always gonna have people who just, for one reason or another, just don't get it when they hear our records or see us live, and some people are just gonna love it, you know. And we're happy about that. We're comfortable with that.
Two more questions. Just, there must have been kind of real satisfaction in releasing All You Can't Leave Behind, and it once again kind of finding really warm reception. I got the sense from just talking to people, in the year, what do you think? What do you think? That people still aren't sure because you've been around, for a lot of most people's musical lives.
Mm-hmm.
You never can tell, they still got it. But everyone, the verdict is in really, and it must be real satisfaction that you still connect now.
Yeah, that record was made with a very clear intent. Again, it was made with the view that we just wanted an album of great songs, and that probably for us the best way of getting to those songs would be to start off maybe with whatever idea of mine or an idea of Bono's or maybe just an improvisation, but to work with the band and to sort of get to the final arrangement almost before we would really start the recording process. And we also, working with Brian and Danny again was a huge help because they bring a lot to the songwriting as well. They're great to have around when you're trying to get a song together. They're full of ideas, full of advice and clarity. So that helped a lot. I don't think we could have made the record without them. But in the end, it was a band record. We always wanted it to be about the four members of the band and what it is that happens when we play together. And really the production, I don't think there is production in the sense that we literally would just play together in the room, and it was the engineer's job to record anything that was happening that was really good. And sometimes we didn't even know we were being recorded. We'd look into the room afterwards and say, did anyone get that? That was really good, And sometimes they would. In fact, most of the time they would. So I suppose the songs really dictated pretty much everything. The arrangements and the sound. And so I know people are sort of saying it's like U2 go back to roots, whatever. I think it's the same approach we've taken on most of our records in terms of the need to be innovative and try different things. We didn't set out to try and make a record that sounded in any way like anything from the past, but I think what we allowed ourselves on this record was, if something presented itself that really was great, that reminded us of something we'd done before, we would kind of allow it in. So there was no kind of embargo on sounding like U2, which at times in the past there has been. Only because we just never wanted to repeat ourselves in a way that, took away from what we were doing. We were always looking for something new and fresh. So I like to think this record has both. It's got that vitality, it's got that life, it's got a freshness. But, it's also at times drawing on some of the sounds that particularly I would have used on the first few records. And I think that's okay.
Quick word about Jimi Hendrix, what you think of it.
I think if you're a guitar player, Jimi Hendrix is the benchmark really in terms of being just an incredible guitarist and a great innovator and a great performer, a great songwriter. He sort of did it all really, and technically he was pretty amazing, but at the same time it never seemed to be anything important to him. It was not about technique. It was about pure instinct, and I think that's what comes through in his work. And sonically, the stuff he was doing was outrageous, and rock and roll should be outrageous, and political, because I think rock and roll should be political, and groundbreaking, really, because rock and roll should be groundbreaking.
Very last thing. Gavin also has a theory about your pinky finger. You know,
What about my pinky finger?
well, he was saying, well, Dick has one that's slightly more curved around, but it's in the Evans genes. That
Oh,
give
the
you a
Evans genes.
special.
Yeah, well, I suppose it's not dead straight, that's for sure. Yeah, you might be right there. Maybe that's it. Maybe that's the secret, you know. It could be. I love those theories. I love all those theories. Everyone's got one, and that's the thing about guitar and guitar players, and the folklore is wild. It just blows me away.
Can we
So-
get a close up? Can we get a close up of the famous?
Of this famous pinky.
Yeah. Say again. Okay. Sam?
Yeah, just two very brief questions. Firstly, could you tell the story about B.B. King embarrassing it? 'Cause I think
Oh, that was a good one, yeah. Okay.
And secondly, it's just very frivolous really, but you're not someone who's usually associated with rock star behaviour, but we read the story that you once went water skiing with two members of Bros. Is that true?
Yes, well, actually, no, not two members of Bros, no, with one member of Bros, yeah. What's that got to do with guitar playing? It's.
Tell the BB story.
I'll tell the BB story. I think that's more relevant. BB is an incredible guy. I mean, just a great, not only a great musician, a great singer, but a great gentleman. And we had a lot of fun together on the road. And I hadn't seen BB after the tour for a couple of years, and we were at this event together. It's called the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, where groups who've deemed to have, you know, done great things over the years are inducted. So I was along talking about the Yardbirds, and so I walk over and there's BB with a bunch of people, and I couldn't really see who he was with. So I said, "How are you, BB?" And he turns around and he goes, "Edge." And he announces to the whole room, "Here's the best rhythm guitar player in the world." And I was a little embarrassed until I actually saw who he was standing with, when I got really embarrassed, because it was like Steve Cropper and Keith Richards and Carlos Santana and Jimmy Page and John Fogerty and like Neil Young, like Johnny Cash, a bunch of people who, you know, I have to say I'm a huge fan of every single one of them in one way or another. And it was really hard to walk the length of the room, you know, when they're all over there, and keep it together. But I mean, I loved him for it, you know, because, you know, he did actually spend a lot of time, you know, on the side of stage with some of his guys, watching us and checking out what I was doing. And I know he was being completely genuine, but at the same time, particularly with Steve Cropper and Keith, it was like, you know, I'm blown away by what they do, and so that was hard.
Great.
Now, I don't know if that's going to work, you know, because, you know,
maybe not. He was wonderful though, and
BB is great.
yeah, he loves you guys. You know, he loved you. He was really, you know, so amazing. And with Clapton too, he made an album just now with Eric, and it's you know, you get the sense almost that he just thinks, yeah, even Eric, you know, he's so generous in that sense that he said, Eric taught me things, and he said, come on, BB, you can do it. And he was like,
Hi, Dick.
Hi.
How's it going? I think I'm through. Thanks for coming back.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
Or
Take this right, and then I'll sit down.
okay.
Okay, so this is it. This is the guitar my mother bought for £1 in a jumble sale, and
Sorry, just 1 second. Just a bit higher, sorry, man.
Oh, booms in.
Okay, and you're rolling, sorry about that. And you're rolling.
so this is the guitar my mother bought for £1 in a jumble sale, and brought it home and said, "Why don't you learn guitar?" So that's basically how it started.
And yes, look at the fretwork on that, wow. And these machine heads, they just don't make those anymore. It's amazing. And the tone. Incredible. I mean, I don't know what sort of wood that is, but I would say, what do you think? Mahogany, would you say?
Plywood?
Plywood, maybe plywood, possibly. There used to be a label in there.
Oh, okay.
Woolworths probably, but I don't know what. 1972, did you say? From the serial number, if it had one. Value, what would you say? £2 at this point.
Careful of the neck. You don't want the neck to snap off again.
I know the neck has come off a few times. Wow. Great. Well, I'd look after it. That's very good.
That's very good. Oh, close up with the guitar.
And you know you were twisting your arm, you were just...
Oh yeah, just
Can we go close above?
Some graffiti on the back.
Virgin prune graffiti, I see. I think you should see the machine heads as well, like.
It's not in that bag, it's in the bag.
Great.
Can I just get a still of you? Because
Sure.
for like publicity shots.
Okay.
With this new guitar. I don't know, it's in a black camera bag somewhere around there. It's like a boxy.
It's great.
I'll get one of the brothers. That's beautiful. Well, thanks, guys. Is Paul gonna be mad at something we're late?
No, I'm sure he's.
I don't think it's here yet.
Christmas shot? Will you allow us a Christmas
Sure, yeah.
shot? Amanda, you-